Yep.
Hello, everybody. I see somebody commented that you can't hear audio on the intro, so let me know in the comments if you can hear me. My name is Pat Webb. I'm with the Secretary Treasurer of VCDL, and we have Philip Van Cleve, the President, Jill McDaniel, our Academy Director, and we have a special guest tonight, Gabby Giffords.
Gabby Giffords.
No, Gabby Franco. I'm so sorry. Woo.
Not
Oh,
quite that, Gabby,
not
okay?
all the people to pick, all the people
All
in the
right.
world.
Michael Dalton says they can hear, so they
Yay!
Okay,
caught
all
that
right.
Red
big faux
letter.
pas.
They can hear and we can read. Yeah, now
Okay.
that's forever on the internet now.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to the sound on that intro, but you had the nice pictures anyway. So anyway, Gabby Franco is an Olympic competitor, a top shot competitor,
Upset. Hmm.
and firearms instructor and a competitive shooter. So, Gabby, I'm going to put your website up on the screen and you can tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. So yeah, I've been here in the United States for about 22 years. I was born and raised in Venezuela, and I was able to immigrate to this country because of my curriculum as an athlete. I applied for an extraordinary ability visa or the O1 visa, and I was granted due to my extensive, successful career in shooting, and here I am. But yeah, my career as a shooter began in Olympic shooting. I did that for about 11 years in Venezuela, where it just was random, if you will. I did so many different sports as a child. My parents were very, they really wanted us or their children to be very versed. But shooting was something that it just stuck. And people ask me, "Did you fall in love with the guns and stuff like that?" And I did not, to be honest. I don't want to say yes or no per se, but what I fell in love with was the challenge that presented to me. Like I looked at it as a kid, right? When many sports like gymnastics and swimming, you do so much physical activity, and then you see shooting. The shooter is just standing there. The target doesn't move. The shooter doesn't move. How difficult could it be to shoot that 1 centimeter bullseye, right? And it just turned out that where I was just training and training and training, trying to shoot and hit that bullseye consistently, that I fell in love with the mental aspect of it, the determination that you have to have, actually the physical training you have to have also to to develop a strong heart rate, so you
Hmm.
can lower your heart rate, and
Mental
understanding.
training.
Yeah, the mental training was fascinating,
Focus.
understanding myself,
Right.
and that
You know,
led
that's
me to the
that's
Olympic
something
Games.
that that's something I find, and a lot of people look at me like I have two heads when I say that shooting is relaxing and therapeutic, but you have to go into that Zen mode, and you really have to kind of tune out the other stuff and just focus on what you're doing and the muscle control, the breathing control, and all of that. And it really is cathartic.
So Gabby, Venezuela probably wasn't the most gun-friendly place in the world to live and grow up, or was it? What was it? I mean, how hard was it to get a gun? What were the restrictions on?
Right.
I want to be an Olympic shooter. I want a gun. Oh no, no guns. I don't know. Tell me what that was like in Venezuela.
Surprisingly, well, Venezuela was not necessarily a country like the United States, where we have a Second Amendment. Venezuela, there was no gun rights. It was more of like a privilege, okay, and a privilege in the sense that it was not guaranteed by the Constitution or anything like that. So, but if you, for instance, you didn't have any criminal records, and you could pay the fee, which was not necessarily something astronomical because many people in Venezuela back then, before Hugo Chavez,
Mm.
people could get their concealed carry license. That's how my dad
Okay.
found out about the Olympic shooting team for children, or for the junior shooting team, because he went to the gun range to get his class, his course for his concealed carry license. And that's when he saw that, or he learned that there was an Olympic shooting team. So, it was nothing very, surprise for people. Oh, people are having guns or anything like that. Um, and also hunting was a big deal. My dad was an avid hunter. I was raised with game, meat. I mean, I eaten anything from venison to capybara to lizards, or iguanas, I
Okay.
should say
Okay.
iguanas, rabbits, duck, anything that could be edible and my dad could find and we could put on
Hmm.
the table. We ate it, and it was wonderful. I was raised like that, and so it. But at the same time, there's a parallel, right? Because even though I want to say gun rights, but the availability for people to get firearms, that was possible. There were gun ranges, there were gun shops, and all that stuff. The opposite side of it was the culture. Okay, that it was not necessarily something that was very well accepted, and still is the case in Latin America, where people see anybody who, to give you an example, every time I said, oh, I am an Olympic shooter, people will be like, oh, please don't do anything to me. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah. Yeah.
It was always kind of the correct relationship that people had with firearms was with something bad.
Yeah.
And I think that is what also ultimately helped to be easier, besides not being guaranteed the right to own firearms, for the government to definitely strip people's rights or people's abilities to obtain and practice the shooting sport, or
Okay. So
obtain
you
guns for
got
self-defense.
your firearms not too hard. Then Hugo Chavez came in. Is that when you left? Was when Hugo came in, or?
No, I lived under Hugo Chavez regime for 4 years.
Oh, okay.
And so I saw the immediate decline of it, because what basically he did, and most people think about, what happened in Venezuela. Oh, Hugo Chavez came and boom, he banned firearms. And that's not the case. What
Okay.
most people fail to recognize is that these individuals, especially socialists, they own the time. They know that they want to shoot for the long shot. I mean, pun intended,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so they do it slowly. So what Hugo Chavez began doing was imposing a chokehold on in the industry, right? He banned importation of firearms. Then by banning importation of firearms, then he started killing the industry, the gun shops, right? If you have a store and you cannot import firearms, how can you survive, right? Then it was the process where he imposed more regulations, more stuff that then it became a burden for business owners to have gun shops open. And so the
Yeah.
gun shops, the gun stores, and those gun shops, they used to process concealed carry licenses. They were like the venue, if you will, like
Mm-hmm.
the channel, right? And so when they kind of disappeared, or few of them existed, began to stay alive, if you will, then what happened is that the government began forcing people to do the process through the government. So imagine this: imagine that you live in Arizona or in California, and the government says, no, now you have to come to Washington, D.C.
Mm.
to get your concealed carry license. How many people can do that for a concealed carry license, right? And so many people just said, you know what, it's not worth it, right? I cannot afford it. I cannot
The
afford the
rich people
time,
could afford it. The rich people,
right?
even in a socialist country, there's rich people.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
actually, one thing that I've learned with the Venezuelan, experience, if you will, is that the disparity, it grows even bigger.
Yeah.
It's
No
just
middle
huge.
class. You're either rich or you're poor, and that's it. You're either in the system as a part of it, or you're not. Wow.
And generally speaking, it switches in the sense that I'm going to tell you, like happened in Venezuela. Like here in the United States, you hear a lot of people saying, like, oh, the 1% of the 10%, the millionaires and all that stuff, right? And I'm very wary with that language for the simple reason that, for example, in Venezuela, you tell me who were the first ones who flee the country, who
The rich
left.
people.
Right, right. And so why? Because if you're gonna tax me all the way to the roof just because I'm successful, because I have achieved greatness or whatever, I have worked hard, then I'm gonna leave. I mean, you would do it too, even if you're not a millionaire, right? If they're gonna tax you just because, you're gonna go. So what happened is that all these people left, all these companies left. The government obviously took a lot of these companies and forced these people who had the brains to do something to leave. And then who was left to be, take everything from them? The middle class. And so
Interesting.
who became the millionaires? The millionaires who left, right? And the ones who became millionaires were the ones who were connected to the government. So it created a different type of millionaires, that it was not a millionaire and billionaires created by brain, by creativity, by the pure sense of, creating a business. No, it was an opportunistic millionaires. And the problem with the opportunistic millionaires is that they don't care. They don't provide services. They don't care if the people are dying. They don't
Right.
have anything to eat because all they care is for the money for themselves without providing absolutely
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, they're not elected, so they really don't care, and they're in the power stream. Soviet Union was like that. You were communism. Well, everybody's supposed to be sharing. Oh, baloney. The people that were connected, like you're describing, they had their little dashas or whatever, little homes along the lakes and so forth, and
you know,
could shop in special markets and stuff that the
yeah,
normal people couldn't go to.
sometimes we think and we question ourselves, we question as citizens, and we see, politicians like, okay, you make $200,000, but you're worth few $1 million. How did that happen, right? But for example, in Venezuela, Hugo Chavez's daughter, when Hugo Chavez died, she was worth $3 billion.
Oh,
How can you explain that?
yeah,
And
and your
that
country,
and that's in world, that's common knowledge. That's not just me saying it. You can look it up and you can see she is
yeah.
way more
Well,
than a millionaire.
not surprised that Venezuela was one of the richest countries because
Yeah.
of the oil and everything. And then again, then the socialism came in. It was like boom, all that
Hmm.
disappeared. All the wealth went out, except for certain people, like you point out. Some people became billionaires, but
Yeah, they do.
with their connections, like you say, not because they were smart, not
It,
because they were entrepreneurial. They had the connection.
and let me tell you something interesting. So they create, it's so fascinating, and they create like a facade, right? So Caracas is the capital, and so you go to Caracas, and Caracas rarely the electricity goes off. Most gas station have gas. So people who live in that area and in the capital don't really feel whatever happens in the inside of the country. Can you believe that even within the country, within Venezuelans, sometimes they're like, why people complain that they don't have electricity? Think of it, in the same country. You see how the same government
Wow.
isolates its own people, right?
Yep.
And so in the interior, right, outside of the capital, people lose electricity for 3 days, only get electricity when they get it, let's say 5 hours a day. They have to do lines. This is normal for the vast majority. But the people who are in the capital, they're fine. And what is the issue with that is that international people who come from from overseas go to the capital, go to
Yeah.
Caracas, and may in certain major cities, they are kind of set up in a certain way that creates this facade that people is like,
Illusion.
oh, yes, it's, oh,
Yeah.
everything looks fine. you
Yeah, this
know?
is fine. What's the problem here?
Mhm.
Chavez is doing a great job, But they
No,
don't dare
now it's
let you
Maduro.
wander a few block. Oh, Maduro, They don't dare let you wander a few blocks down the road. By the way, I was just going to say something. Yeah, we got Jeffrey Rhodes from New Braunfels. I'm very familiar with that part of Texas. I spent 11 years in San Antonio, so you're probably near Canyon Lake up there. My wife and I used to go up there frequently. Just happened to see him check. It was a little unusual to have people from Texas, but we're glad to see all these people come in. So who was in charge when you finally had a chance to go represent Venezuela the first time in the Olympics? Because I believe you represented Venezuela, then you fled when you had another opportunity, but you said nope, out of here. What was when was that, and what was that like getting into the Olympics?
So yeah, that was Sydney 2000. I went to the Olympic Games in Sydney 2000. So let me tell you a quick story about it. As an athlete in Olympics, you have to go through the Olympic cycle. So I went to Bolivarian Games in Peru. I got silver medal, and then South American Games, I got silver medal. I went to the Central American Games, which were in Venezuela in 1998, and I got silver medal. And then go to the Pan American Games, and I was the only woman. There was only a team of two shooters, male and female. I was the only woman there, and I shot my match. I saw the results. I was second place, and then I had to go to the finals. I was super nervous. Go to the finals, finish, and I look back to see the scores, and I see myself in second place again, like a
Wow.
silver, right? And you're like, oh
Yeah.
my god, when I'm gonna win the gold, right? And I'm so like, so disappointed. But then my coach, who he was from the Republic of Georgia, by the way. And some people from Latin America, some other athletes came to me like, Gabby, you did it. This is so awesome. And I'm like, right, silver again, right? And they're like, you don't know. And I'm like, I don't know what. And they're like, Gabby, gold and silver medal are plaza to the Olympic Games. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That is when I learned in my life that emotions can change rather quickly. Okay.
I'll bet.
Sometimes people think like, oh, I'm too sad. I'm like, no, I can bet you I can make you happy if you want to be
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah. Well, that was a
But
big
being
surprise.
Yes, being at the Olympics was there was a lot of hiccups getting there, a lot of struggles. I was super nervous at the Olympic Games, but it was a phenomenal experience. Uh, an experience of sweat, a lot of sacrifices. I trained between 4 to 5 hours a day, 6 days a week, except for Mondays, for years.
Wow.
It was one of those things that I was like, okay, I finished that cycle, right? Got to the Olympic Games, and then became continue for the upcoming Olympic cycle. And I started winning gold. I won gold at the South American Games in Ecuador, and then went to Brazil, and I won 3 gold medals in Brazil. And that was the South American Games. But right before that, that was when Hugo Chavez, that was 2002. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was April or May when there was a coup that Hugo Chavez was taken from the government for 72 hours or something like that. And many of us thought, that's it, this is it, finally. I mean, only in 3 years, imagine the damage and how
Oh
things were
yeah.
so bad that in only 3 years and a half or 3 years, we felt everything that I mean, it was just disastrous. But then he came back. And when he came back, it was worse.
Yeah. I figured.
Um, it was worse. I don't know. He was just expropriating businesses left and right.
Yeah.
He was just doing disastrous things. And that's when I said, even though I was Olympic hope and I was supposed to go to the to the Central American Games and to keep earning my points and possibility to get my spot to the Athens 2004 Olympics. That's when I said no, I am leaving. And I had already spoken with a friend here in the United States who she went with me we went together to the Olympic Games. She was a tennis player. But when I met her here in Miami, she explained to me her process, how she applied it through the sport. And the information of her lawyer, and I said, you know what, I'm leaving. Everybody thought I was crazy in my family. Nobody
Wow.
thought that things in Venezuela were gonna do right. I'm telling you, it took about 3 years for my family and I, and this is very personal, I'm saying, but it took a good 3 years because it was just people couldn't understand why I was leaving the country. It
Yeah.
was one of those
Yeah.
things that you see it that is bad, but you still have the hope, that we're
Yes.
not gonna
Yes.
go down, that we're always gonna get over this. And maybe my experience with my coach, one of my coaches who was Cuban, that I was like, no, I just don't see it like that. And
Yeah.
as
You
a
did the
young,
smart thing. Did your family ever follow you here, or do they still just stay in Venezuela?
most of them, yeah, they came here.
Oh,
Very
okay.
fortunate.
Yeah,
Hmm.
they saw that you made it, and you got to tell them a little bit about America and all. So, what kind of guns did you shoot in the Olympics? And were you? I assume it was 22 rifles, or what
No,
was it?
right. I shot air pistol. So I
Okay.
shot air pistol with a Stayer LP10 pistol, beautiful.
Wow.
This pistols look more like out of space guns, if you will, and they're very
Oh yeah,
expensive. An air pistol right now can cost you easy. That kind of pistols can cost you around 2,500, if not $3,000.
and very
Um,
accurate.
oh, pristine. Those
Yes.
firearms are pristine. And I also shot sport pistol, which is 22 caliber, and we shoot 25 meters. We shoot off hands. Both disciplines. I shoot off hand. And yeah, I used to shoot with a Walther GSP, and it's interesting because when I'm currently sponsored by Walther, but when Walther asked me to if I asked me to be one of their sponsor shooters, back in my head I was like, if that 19-year-old me in 1999 would have said, can you imagine that the pistol that you use in that company is going to sponsor you
Yeah.
19,
Yeah.
18 years
Wow.
in the future? I would have never believed it. So it's amazing how also life goes around. And when you do, you try to do your best and strive to do the right thing, God just put things
Sometimes,
in your plate the right way.
So,
absolutely. Go ahead, Pat.
yeah, you do competitive shooting still today. What type of shooting do you do?
I'm doing a US PSA, US
Hmm.
practical shooting. I used to do 3 gun. It's just too much to deal with. Same thing with 2 guns. So I'm just sticking to one. I'm still doing my academic stuff. I'm doing my master's, and so that kind of has slowed me down this year.
Hmm.
But I keep practicing and keep training and competing as much as I can.
And what
So,
got you into teaching firearms?
Interesting. So I used to work in a gun shop. I worked in a gun shop for 6 years here in the United States. And then things went around to the point that I wanted to, kind of find independence and finding my own ways. And then I thought, and this is early. This is let's see, 2009, I think, 2008, 2009, when there were not that many female firearms instructors. It was
Hmm.
I'm not gonna say unheard of, that you could no, it was not something like today, right? That you can find
Hmm.
any. And I remember talking to some people and they looked at me like, you have no military background. You don't have law enforcement background. And I took that conversation or those point of view seriously, right? Because it actually, whether they said it or not said it in whatever way, right? I don't take things personally, right? I just actually take that information and dissect it. And I said, okay, you're right. You're right. I'm not military. I don't have background in military or law enforcement, but I may be able to teach people one or two things about how to shoot good.
Hmm.
So that helped me because back then everything was tactical, right?
Uh,
And so, in a sense, even though I want to find my own independence, I was like, oh, but I don't know how to do those things. And then I thought, I don't have to be like anybody else. I can be just me and just give what I know. And it flourished because I had people who would pay me weekly. Like it was almost like, yes, weekly. They wanted
retainer.
literally, because they saw such a good results. Like they saw, like it's not like I just taught you how to shoot good today. Okay, now tomorrow I want you to teach me how to shoot a little bit faster and good, and then I want you to teach me to shoot faster with transitions, and so it was just more like a consistent thing, and
Mhm.
and then I loved it, and one of the things I from the beginning that I noticed that there was a lack of implementing mental aspects of shooting or mental performance, if you will, to the teaching of shooting. And I think that also separated me from the beginning from many instructors who they focus on, oh, you're anticipating, you're doing this, or just shoot this time of rounds. Well, in my case, where the way I teach is, okay, let me see you holistically, right? You as an individual, instead of seeing the shooting technique and try to shove it into to you in your head, and you have to apply it as it is. And so that that just kept growing and growing, and now I'm doing my master's, no based on shooting, but to complement what I do.
I
So what
one of the things
what
I
are you
enjoyed about
studying?
So I'm doing I have a bachelor's in psychology, and I'm doing
Mhm.
now my master's in sports and performance psychology.
Fabulous. And I'm
as
sorry,
an
Philip.
as to say, as an instructor, one of the things I've always enjoyed, because I'm an Illinois and Utah and Virginia instructor and all that. I've always enjoyed watching a person that's brand new get their first bullseye and watching their face light up
Mhm.
like a flare. You know, it's like they had a big smile and the excitement, and I've always enjoyed that, and it's kind of probably what you've experienced as well and what you're doing.
Yeah,
Except you're not may not even be a new shooter. You've taught an existing shooter how to hit a dime, at a long distance. So
right, right,
So
right.
we have a question for you,
Sure.
Gabby, is what is your opinion on the point and shoot discipline?
I think there has to be a balance, right? I think you, as in general, you have to have a very strong foundation for things to get um, to be second nature. Okay, and I said even as the second as a competitive shooter, there are targets that we literally point and shoot, and you would be surprised how many people miss those
mm,
targets. Okay, that you think you're doing, and you think you're there, and you're doing it, and you're missing the target. And this is a when it's fraction of a second, this is not life threatening. Imagine when on top of that you have the life threatening element. Okay, your heart rate is super high. And so it all depends on the situation, of course. You know how the distance we're talking about. If it's like almost in front of you that you don't even have a time to do a full draw, hey, by all means. But there are elements that I do believe it is very important that you have to focus on being consistently well, and that you're confident on your skills when everything is normal. Some people focus only, oh, I'm just gonna just practice uh, point and shoot. I'm like, well, the likelihood for that to happen and for you to be good is very slim if you only go to the range once a week. That's only 52 days in a year. That's only 52 hours in a year, and that is if you go once a week. you know
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
so practicing the best you can, that if that time comes you can have an ideal draw, you can have a good grip, or at least at the very least you have a good grip control to control that firearm. Everything else potentially has a potential to be a good or go into your advantage.
So Gabby, so what was it like to be on Top Shot? I mean, I was addicted to that show. I watched it from the very beginning. This was the History Channel for those of you that may not have ever seen this. It happened around, I think it was like around 2010 to like 2013, and they had some top shooters in there, and they did all kinds of they thought up all kinds of things they would do to compete every week. Really fun looking stuff. You know, they set up something that looked like an old Western bar and had all kinds of bottles and all kinds of things on there, and you had to shoot those things. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. You got to shoot all all different kinds of guns. I mean, from Gatling. Well, you may not have done. I don't remember if they did Gatling guns on your season 4, but I mean, it was just a wonderful show. And I didn't put it together, but once Gabby said she was on there, then I remembered her. I never knew. Again, how did I know that someday I would meet her? Who would have ever thought? But it was a great show. So how did you get selected for that? And what did you have to do? What was it like for those of us that have never been on anything like that?
Well, not surprisingly, I was just like you. I was a fan of Top Shot. I never imagined in a million years I was going to be able to do something like this. I just remember one day my brother was actually the one who told me, "Hey, this is the last week to apply for Top Shot. Why don't you do it?" I'm like, "Nah, what I'm going to do such a thing? Are you crazy? Whatever." And then how life is, or God sent me that message. I saw it on Facebook, out of all places. I'm kind of pop up last week or something. You have to apply, and I am a person that I'm very. I'm not going to say impulsive, but if I want to do something, I'm just going to do it in the moment, right? And so I opened I opened the thing, and I just started reading and said, just email your name, who you are, why you should be a top shot shooter, or top shot contestant, and send a picture. I'm like, oh, that's easy. And I sent all that and click send. Well, to my surprise, I went back to the attachment and I kept reading instead of reading the whole thing
No.
at once, right? It
Okay.
says,
Yeah.
along with your email, include your video and stuff. And
Oh,
I'm like, oh my God, I didn't make a like an introduction video. I don't remember the name. An audition video.
audition video.
So I'm thinking, oh, they're gonna reject my application. In the meantime, I'm just trying to make this video. I used to work in Office Depot back then, um, part time. Well, I was doing my instructing in the afternoon, and then I got a phone call. I'm in the doing photocopies and stuff. And then I gave the copies to my manager. He's looking at me like, what is going on here? And they told me, well, we want to know more about you. You have to send us this video by 2 days or something
Did
like
you
that.
say
So
you were in the Olympics? Did you mention that in your resume to them?
I don't remember, but I probably
I
did.
bet you did. I'll bet
I
you did.
probably did. Well,
It would have been.
I had to throw everything I could,
Yeah, well, you
right?
should, and that probably opened the door for you to do the next step. They didn't just set you aside. They said, "Let's find out more." Because I guarantee they didn't do that with everybody.
Right. And so, anyways, long story short, I was faced with a huge conundrum, or was, how you say, between the
Rock and a
wall
hard
and
place.
right, because I needed to be away from work for a month and a half.
Oh,
And so I asked the corporation, that I needed a month and a half leave of absence. Right. I'm not asking. I was like, I just need to be gone for this time. Just, I want to make sure that I have my job back. And they told me no. They told
man.
me that that they couldn't do that amount of time, and then I would have been terminated. And again, this is very personal, but I was going through very difficult times, emotionally, financially, and all that
Hmm.
stuff. And I was trying to make that decision. Can you imagine? This is my only source of income,
Yes,
and I'm
yes,
gonna just let it go for a TV show that I'm not even there yet. You know what I mean? I don't even know if I'm gonna
yeah.
be selected. And I took the chance.
But you felt a guy. You felt you were being guided over there, and sometimes you just have to go. You have
Mhm.
to go with that guidance. I know how many times I didn't for something, and I kicked
I,
myself later.
I think the way I thought about it was a calculated risk. Okay, I saw an opportunity, one life experience. When I'm in my whole life, obviously I make that decision once I was selected, right? Not while I was doing the application. Once they told me I had to go, that's when I had to make the decision. Okay, I need to quit this job, right? The only source of income I had. So it was not an easy decision, but just the life experience I was gonna get.
Yes.
I'm a very hardworking woman, that I knew that I talked to my manager and I said, listen, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna go. But would you please take me back if I come back? And he said, Gabby, I will, he said. And
Oh, nice.
that gave me a little bit of peace of mind, even though I never went back. Um, but I think that having that thinking, not only logically, but like holistically, right? Seeing everything. If I only have thought about the money in my moment, in my situation in the moment, then I would have said, I cannot, right? I need to keep this job. But seeing it as the big picture, I saw, well, maybe this will open the doors for people to get to know me, for me to not only the experience, but for me to, you know,
It's a once in a
be
lifetime
known. I
thing.
don't
It was a
know.
once in a lifetime. When would you ever possibly have another chance to do that, to be on television, to go up against all these other shooters and stand your ground darn well to
So
last
if
11
you
seasons?
So if all of you watched the first episode on Top Shot, which is season 4, I was so nervous that when after I made my shot, and as you know, I made it, right? But after I made my shot on that first episode, to get into the team, I still, because I watched that episode or watched the season. It's been a while, probably 2 years ago or something. And I was watching that episode. I kid you not, my heart rate was just
Clock
going
was started again.
pumping, like I could even see in my face the smile. I'm like, that is not a smile. That's like I'm like, thank you, Lord, nervous smile that I had. But I still have the emotions. It really evokes those emotions.
You have to pay for it now. I guess at one time it was up for free where you could watch the Top Shot stuff seasons for free, I guess. Now they're charging for it, but I'm gonna have to pay for season 4.
Yes.
I want to watch it again
You know what
to
we can do? If you do, maybe we can do a series where we watch after each episode.
yeah, that would be interesting at some point. So you
So
shot what all kinds of guns did you shoot? Again, I don't remember off the top of my head. I mean, because
we
they did wild stuff. Like I say, one season they had Gatling guns, and you were doing all different kinds of shooting. I mean, the fun stuff. It's like who dreams all this stuff up?
Yes,
So
I mean we shot so many different guns, all the way from cowboy action shooting.
yeah,
We did, which to me was very interesting. It was a very challenging one, in a way, just in a way. The how you say, black powder
yes,
firearms,
yes.
the flintlocks,
Oh,
pistols. It was
yeah,
a
yeah,
challenging learning how to load it on the go. I mean, it was it was more like a cognitive kind of
yeah.
challenge for most of us who have never shot those firearms,
Well,
being pressured to do everything in order. But
but
on top,
also the delay. How did you handle that? I've never
yes,
shot one of those. It's like click bang. It's like there's a
right.
gap in there.
Right.
I'm
And so that
not.
was the other part. It's just remembering that you cannot just go boom, boom, and lower the gun,
No.
even though you have to do follow through, right? But this is a way longer follow through. So remembering that, and not definitely you cannot flinch, because then with that hang shot, whatever it's called, you wouldn't hit your target. So we did that. One of my favorites was the BAR. It was a 3006. It was a full automatic, and this is my reenactment. Okay, so here it goes. I just remember it was just, I don't know. It was just, that was the trenches. We had to go through the trenches and get to the
Oh
gun.
yeah.
It was such a full
Oh
automatic.
yeah.
The BAR, that firearm, and obviously I had never shot that firearm before, but it's like a slow push, if you will. It's not like
Hmm.
the typical full automatic that you feel, right? It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like it's like a slow push that you get back, that it makes it's very, I don't know. I found that enjoyable.
Yeah, I guess the cyclic rate must not be very high. I've never shot one of those. It must be low, or maybe three or
Yeah.
four hundred rounds a minute, maybe.
And then it was the canon. So the canon episode was hilarious, because during the practice, yeah, I'm petite. For those of you who don't know, I am five
Yes,
one and proud of
yes.
that 1 inch. Okay, and on top, I'm sure I'm petite. I'm a petite woman, and so the instructor, or the expert, he kept treating me, and it probably because I had like a braids, two braids or two ponytails, something like that. He kept treating me like this little girl, right? Like, watch
Oh,
out, don't,
yeah.
don't, don't take, watch if you take your eye out and stuff like that. And especially because you have to pull the little, to fire the triggers like a
Yes.
needle or something. And so it was, to me, it was funny. Like I said, I don't take things personal. I was
Yeah.
hilarious. So what I did with our team, I said, you know what? I am gonna shoot all the shots. And so obviously they were the guys, so they did all the heavy work, moving, aiming the big cannon and all that stuff. And my job was just to pull the and, and
Pull the whatever that is.
yeah,
Yeah, the little
and
cord.
right, and fire the cannon. I mean, I'm right
Yeah.
there next to the huge explosion, but
Yeah.
I found kind of joy into the historical part of it.
Sure.
Again, like life experience. Where in my life I'm gonna shoot a cannon?
Yeah, I've never shot
Ex-
a cannon. I'm envious.
right? And so that was, to me, that was funny. But we did so many different other farms. I cannot think right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to. I'm stuck. I'm gonna have to rent that season and watch it. But
Yes, definitely.
so
So
you had a practice session. So before was that on camera too when you did the practice? I can't remember. Or did you guys do a practice off camera?
no, so everything happened the same when you saw on the show.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and our week, when you see our week, normal people week is 7 days. On filming week was 9 days. So we
Okay.
we film every 3 episodes. We had 1 day break. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So it was filming. The first day was practice day, competition day, elimination day. Practice day, competition day, elimination day, mm, just like that.
Just rolling
And
right on through.
right. And then we have the our break, which one ended up being so funny. And like I told you earlier, I was going through so many, struggles, financial, and I had people who asked me, how did you deal with it? How could you focus your mind knowing that you had so many stuff at home? I think even at that time there was a hurricane that we learned about, and so because I lived in Miami. So anyway,
Mm.
one thing I did was say, okay, I can, in something I've learned in shooting is that you control only what you can control, right? So my first thing was like, I chose to be here, right? So I'm not gonna get mad about myself, and nobody's retaining me here about against my will. So if I want to go, I just tell them I just want to quit and I'm gonna go. But if I don't want to do that, so you better do your best, and the attitude has to be to you to on point. The other thing is that because we were not allowed to leave the house, right? So we were all enclosed in this house, which was pretty large, and we had
Hmm.
a very nice patio and everything. The producers will bring us whatever we wanted to the house. Like if I wanted, I don't know, ice cream with chocolate chips and something else. I just put the note in a pad, and voila, the next day or
Ready.
the shopping day, we would have it in the freezer, and so that's what's my mentality. My mentality is like, well, I'm actually living like a millionaire. I don't have to go to the grocery store. All I need to do is just take care of myself, and life goes on
Yeah.
so
You're in
normal.
a fantasy world. You're in Disneyland, but with guns.
Right, right, right. I'm having fun at the range. So I had to do some psychological, cognitive personal training, if you will. I don't know how to put it
You had
into
the
words,
focus
but
going though. You had to focus. If you didn't focus, you wouldn't have done what you did, and that
oh,
probably helped block out everything anyhow. Even if you were
right,
worried about finances, when you once you hold that gun in your hand and the cameras are rolling, everything else, the world disappears except for that little front sight and the rear sight and the target.
right,
Hmm.
right, right. And but still, it's sometimes it's difficult to battle those back thoughts, and I had to, do my best to battle those thoughts. But I
Keep
think that
pushing them
was
away.
it was instrumental for me to stay focused on what I needed to do in the show. Another interesting thing that happened, very related to me, obviously. I was at one time a producer. asked me, I was in the living room just fine, and he asked me, Gabby, why are you trying so hard? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm trying so hard for try hard what? He said,
Want to
yeah,
win?
you are trying to be so clean on the camera. You are so nice to people. I'm like, dude, that's me.
Yeah, just being
like
yourself.
I don't like in general normal I don't even curse. I don't. Okay,
Yeah,
I don't curse. And on top of that, and then I sell because he was like a, I don't know, and I guess in Hollywood, right? I guess many people or women try to show off a lot
yeah,
or to do so many things. And I was like, and I had to, the conversation went to the point. I said, listen, I am here. I know this is LTV. This is real because we were competing, right? But I said at the end of the day, this is not just me, right? I represent my family. I want when my parents see me there, they see they are proud of what I did and what I do. I represent my community too. I represent the people from Miami where I'm there. My shooting friends. Can you imagine? They can say, "Oh, she is my friend. I shoot with her," instead of, "Oh
yeah,
my God, I
yeah.
shoot with that woman."
I don't know that woman.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But
So,
wasn't everybody else nice? All the other shooters? I mean, overall, gun owners are some of the nicest people you'd ever want to deal with. They compete and they still shake hands. They even will cheer on the other person. Uh,
and that was the hard time. That was the difficult thing for producers to understand. That's why if you see from season 1 to season 4, they changed, right? The way before was so much drama to the point to my season where they understood the community is not like that. We're not like
yes,
the Hollywood kind of people. We're not
right.
those, reality people who look for, or at least I would say most gun owners will have values, family values, and I don't know.
Community values and morals and everything.
And morals, yeah.
What brought you to Virginia?
My husband is active duty,
Okay. Oh
so
wow. Okay.
yeah, so we're a military family
Good.
until next year. He just put his retirement packet in July of next year.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's gonna be almost 22 years of service for him, and it will be almost 13 years of as a military spouse for me. And moving around and
Yeah.
going and supporting the military, and not only as a spouse, but in everything I can. I volunteer with the USO regularly, with the military, with the Army Museum, and anything I can do on base. So yeah, that's pretty much what brought me in Virginia. But we'll be back to Texas, or at least that's the plan today. That may change. Who knows? When it's time for us to go next
We're in
year.
Texas.
North of Dallas.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I
Hmm.
have some family up in that area. So, how did you meet your husband? Was it anything to do with shooting or?
Well, don't laugh too much, okay?
Okay.
Please. So, anyways, I was his teacher.
Okay.
It's funny because as being a woman in the farm industry, and especially back then, 2009, most of my students were men. And I'm very professional in those things, right? I keep everything separated and all that stuff. But he was smart. So he kept having the conversation like, okay, another class. I'm like, okay, I'll teach you like I teach my other students or whatever. But then he invited me to a cowboy shooting competition. And I never shot cowboy shooting during that time or until that time, right? And I'm like, thank you very much, but I don't do cowboy shooting. I don't have shotguns. I don't have, the six shooters. I don't have any of those rifles. And he said, don't worry. We'll have guns and ammo and you're free to use them all. You don't have to buy anything.
Nice.
So how, as a
I
shooter,
mean,
can
what do you
say
do? Yeah.
no,
It's
So
right?
he
not
bribed you.
humanly possible.
So I
He had
started
already
going to
planned y'all's wedding. He had already planned.
So I started going to because I was curious too, and I had so much fun in cowboy shooting. So I started doing the competition, and he has this group of. It was funny because he's so young. We were young back then, and cowboy shooting they're all general older people, right?
Hmm.
And so they provided everything for him for me. Okay. They kind of, okay, she's coming, we're gonna give her everything, whatever. And
Yeah, it's a perfect date, man. You don't have to pay anything if your future girlfriend is eating
right.
for free.
And then after the match, we'll go lunch. And so that's how we started to get to know each other, and outside of the coach or instructor student relationship, if you will. And we went. I'll tell you a quick story about my cowboy shooting experience. So obviously I didn't have anything, any equipment, nothing whatsoever, right? So they have these belts for the shotgun shells, right?
Yeah.
And so they lent me one, but it was so big that I kind of did a double twist on it. Okay, I double twist on it and I wrapped it around, and I had the not so good idea because it was not bright, but I did it. So I put some of the shotgun shells on the little loops that I had exposed, but the other shotgun shells I put in between the belt and my body to hold them. That was the only place I had. So at the moment, look, everything looked fine. But as I am shooting and I started grabbing those between the
Yeah.
belt and the body, the rest fell.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking down and I realize I see nothing, right? So I have the shotgun pointing down range and I turn like this. And all I see at my eye level is a big belly full of shotgun shells. So I just said, grab, put the two shells I needed, shot the shotgun, bam, bam, and I'm done. So everybody was in shock because they were like,
Yo,
first,
what?
hilarious. First, it was hilarious. And two, they were like, there's nowhere in the rule book.
Yeah, what do we do with this?
How can we penalize and nobody has ever done
No,
this?
but it had to look like genius. Here you had an absolute dilemma, and you solved it like that. The guy that was standing behind you kind of went, what just happened? You know,
It was just a spark at the moment. I was like, you have what I need.
that's
I grab it,
that's
boom, pop.
I think we lost Philip there. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
that
hilarious.
is hilarious. I did want to point something out that I've noticed over
Hmm.
the course of this. You and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking how lucky you were to be an Olympic competitor and how lucky you were to be on Top Shot and to live your dream, teaching people how to shoot and all of this and coming to America and everything. But I want to point out that you made that luck. You you started out in the beginning talking about how you got to the Olympics because of your dedication and the hard work that you did leading up to that. And even after you chose to come to the US and give up that second shot at the Olympics, you continued the hard work and everything. So, uh, luck
Thank
is
you.
something that we make for each other or for
I
ourselves.
I agree.
And I think that's really important.
I agree.
Um,
I agree. Sometimes, and you're right. Some people ask me like, "How you're there, and people know you, or you have sponsors." I'm like, "Well, I have a 31-year career."
mhm,
If you think of it that way, it's like, yeah, it's about time, right?
right.
It's just good enough that and I continue doing it, if you will, and I'm continue pursuing like what I'm doing my master's, what even my bachelor's. I did my bachelor's later in life. I was here in the United States for like 18 years, and I did my high school in Venezuela, and I never did any kind of education or higher education in the United States. And I found myself to the point where I can continue as a firearms instructor, and I was doing so great, like great. And then I decided, no, I need to do go my bachelor's because I found it was a blockage where I didn't have the vocabulary to talk about other things. I couldn't express myself properly, if you will, in English. And I felt that was handicapping myself as an adult, even though I have my thoughts in Spanish, I could not produce those in English. And I figured that to help others better, I need to better myself. And that's why I went to and sacrifice a lot, because when you go full time college, I couldn't go and teach the same at the same level I was doing at the same rate. But then did my bachelor's in psychology, and then when I decided last year to do my master's with the same thinking, right? Is okay, if I do this, it give me the tools, so I can help even better the people I want to help. It's not just
Yeah. When did you learn? So you didn't have any English when you were in Venezuela. You didn't learn English there in school.
very
So
little,
okay, yeah,
very
because
very
you
basic.
yeah, you mastered the language quite well. It's a hard language. I mean, hats off to anybody where English is their second language. And believe me, it is something that it's not like Spanish. I took Spanish. Okay, yeah, you could look at something and you knew exactly how to pronounce it. In
Hmm.
English, it's like, oh man, it's by rote. You just got to learn that it's not live, it's live in this case. Or I can give you countless examples. So it's
And
congratulations. It's tough.
thank you. And even the context of things.
Mhm.
We say things in Spanish, and that's just a matter of translating. That some I have gotten in trouble. I'm like, oh, I didn't mean that. I mean
Oh
the
yeah.
other way.
There was, for example, going the other way, where somebody was trying to say that they were embarrassed in Spanish, so they said "Yo soy embarazada," and
But
which means pregnant. That's what
right.
they meant to say, but
Yes, that's it.
uh,
That's it. But thank you, Pat, for saying that. I appreciate that thought. Like everything in life, and it's been a joy. And I always say, and I'm saying this because in my life, I think I have in my head. I should say in my head the X amount of books I want to write. Okay,
uh,
and one of them I want to talk about is the life is like slingshot. Okay, if you're willing to do your best. Okay, and this is what I mean. With a slingshot, right, you feel you're pushing back, you're going backwards, right? That's how I felt. And this thought came while I was doing my masters, because while I was doing my
mm,
masters, I was going to competitions and people were just walking stages while I was writing my papers, studying, right? And people were having fun at shot show and going to Vegas and going partying. I had to stay at the hotel writing papers, studying. I see instructors just pushing forward. Their social media was going, and my social media was lacking, which is lacking right now as I'm doing my master's. So I felt I was stagnant when I saw the world rushing in front of me. Does that make sense? And
yeah,
I felt in a way that I was going back. However, once I was done, it seemed I was above,
yeah,
beyond them.
yeah. So
And
you were that slingshot going back at first, and then boom.
Yep.
Uh,
yes,
yeah,
yes, and I think it's very important for people to understand that if you have a goal, and whether it's creating a business, even as what we're doing as the Second Amendment, right? It may seem like a forever job, right? That you see all these legislatures going, but that hard work that you're doing, work, 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 it will pay off. It does pay off. And I think that's so important, and that's how I see it. Like you were saying, Pat, it's hard at first when you see it, but if you keep in mind that what you're doing is the right thing to do, there is no doubt that you're gonna shoot forward like with the force of a slingshot.
And I'm glad you said that because that leads into my last question for you.
Hmm.
Having lived through Venezuela, and when you were talking about Chavez and all of the things that he did and so forth, and I saw comments in the chat. People were seeing the similarities of what we're seeing today in the United States and in Virginia. What would you say to Virginians, to the VCDL members? How do we keep our focus and keep our spirits up, and B, keep develop the momentum and get that slingshot going for us?
Right. I think the most important thing is understanding the life as we know, and we hear it all the time. It may sound cliche, but life is a journey. right? It's not like, oh, I did this and I sit down and I'm done, right? Because there's always something comes up. So always be on the guard, but in the guard in a positive way, not as the guard as if defensively, because the last thing you want to be is in defensive mode. The best where then you are in a better position when you are in an active mode, right? So staying active, right? Same thing when you want to improve yourself, you don't want to wait until something is going wrong to say, "Oh, I'm going to work on my mental health." Too late,
Too late.
right? Too late. You have to start working on it from the beginning, every day, all the time. And it doesn't have to be, when we think about politics, people say, "Oh my God, Gabby, please, no, we don't have
Mm.
to do that," right? But that doesn't have to be that the case. For example, if you make it just once a week a phone call to your representative, for example. That's it. How much that is? If you make it twice a week, right? Mondays and Fridays, you're gonna call. That's a 10 minute. You're gonna send an email. You're gonna support, the organizations that are doing this for you, that are in the front and in the front line. Let's do it like the you guys, VCDL. And so I think the most important thing is maintain active and understanding. Like evil will always try to get to you, right? And you always it's hard to be sometimes being that good person and doing the right thing, but it's a constant battle.
Well, your
You know,
statement about positivity, I like, if you're not positive in what you're doing, in a way you're retreating, and you'll never win a war retreating.
right.
You win a war when you're confident and you're moving forward, saying, "I am going to get this job done. I'm going to do my part, and I'm not backing down until I win."
And being active,
Yes,
maintain that in
being in there.
whichever capacity you can. And I think that's very important that people are active in whatever capacity they can. And that could be simple as taking a friend to the range.
Hmm.
Say, somebody in your neighborhood is not so good into firearms. Say, hey, you know what? Why don't we teach your children firearm safety?
Yeah.
You don't have to go to the
Right.
range, but I care for your kids' safety, okay? And I'm sure you do. Let's do this. Just no firearms. Let's teach them what to do if they find a firearm at home. I am a firearm owner, and I can be more than glad to help you with that. Boom!
Right.
Now you are creating a bridge. Now you are,
Hmm.
reaching out without being, oh, so you're not a gun owner. Oh, so you don't like the Second Amendment. No, we don't want that, because at the end of the day, you're not going to change ideas. What you can do, though, is open the doors and let people
Right.
see through the differences. And that will make a lot of a difference.
If they come to the conclusion themselves, that's the best possible way. You can't force it. You can lead a dog to water, but you can't make it drink.
That's right.
But if they do it on their own, they look at what you're doing and realize what's going on. That's when you make a convert.
That's
And
it.
sometimes you can ask the question. You talk to somebody who says they're maybe don't believe in firearms, or they don't believe in private firearm ownership.
Hmm.
And you ask them, have you ever shot a gun? Do you know anything about them? Would you like to learn so that if you ever come across one, you can be safe? I'll be happy to take you to the range and teach you in a safe way.
And one thing I have told before that may sound a little bit cringing for some of my beloved gun owners is that stay quiet, actually, and listening. Because
Hmm.
when you stay quiet and listen to the other side, right, they will be more willing to listen to you. You may not, you say, okay, I understand your perspective. They may seem like, oh, they always tell me that gun owners are crazy people, but no, you have just proved to me that you can see my perspective. Maybe the next time, and they say, okay, I understand your perspective. What about next time I take you to the ranch and I show you my perspective? Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah.
So
Listening is a two-way street.
yeah,
Hmm.
right. We don't have to end up into a battle, shut it back, just be smart about it. I think if you approach it that way and give that person their perspective, and they may say no. Oh, no. And you're like, okay, you know what I mean? And that's okay. More often than not, often those people may reach out.
Hmm.
Maybe and maybe because of your good attitude, now they engage into a cognitive dissonance,
Right.
saying they say this about gun owners. I have this belief, but I have this experience,
Right.
this one-on-one life experience of what is a gun owner. And so, that could also be a beginning to
We're
understand.
Right.
ambassadors. We're ambassadors in a way. I mean, if you're doing it right, you're an ambassador. You're representing the wonderful gun owning community in the United States of America.
That's right.
And people can't help if they just open their mind. They really can't help it, but fall in love with the community, with the sport,
Hmm.
and the ability to give you something you may not have had before. The ability to feel comfortable that in a pinch you could save your own life or your
Yep.
family's life.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
So we are just over an hour here. Does anybody have any closing? We've kept people quite long enough, I think, and we've kept Gabby quite long. Um, do you have any closing remarks or reflections or anything? No?
Talking to
Wait,
no,
what
You
did
talking
you
to
mean?
you didn't
Gabby.
get much time to talk, Jill.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
Gabby and I have actually had these conversations before. She's remarkable. She's actually
Yes.
somebody that I have looked up to, and coming up in my ranks in this community, as well as becoming an instructor, I have her videos on bookmark all the time, so I can
Hmm.
learn and perfect myself as much as possible, because I'm a forever student in this. And if there's a message that needs to be spread, it's definitely Gabby's. I've always said that. I always kind of lead people to her. I'm like, go
Absolutely.
read Gabby's stuff. So
And
thank
and
you.
and I do want to thank you, Gabby, both for being here and for being an ambassador for the firearms community. You're you just exude happiness and confidence and um, willingness to learn. And I
Yeah,
always say I'm a lifelong student. I enjoy educating other people, but I also enjoy learning myself.
yes,
And I want to keep learning until the day I die. But your genuine personality comes through, and I want to thank you for that. And thank you for sharing your experiences with us.
of course.
And
I
I
hope
hope
this
you'll
is not the
consider.
last time.
Yeah.
No, I hope you'll
no,
come back again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, we'll have to look at getting season 4 and figuring something out over time. Maybe have you on occasionally, talk a little bit about something.
that would be
Uh,
fun.
yeah.
I
We
was
did
also,
get a mention about the vetoes
mhm.
um, for Governor Youngkin. And Gabby, I know you have your son. If you have to run, if you don't mind leaving your browser window open until the video uploads, you'll get a message on your screen
Okay.
when it's done uploading. You can turn your
I do
camera and
nothing.
mic off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
just
do nothing. It's been recording you on your local camera in case there was a internet issue, and that
right.
way it gets a perfect image of you while you're talking, and don't have to worry about
Sounds
things
good.
breaking up.
Yeah, so we can share some of this with you. You can actually put something on your
Yeah,
socials.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yes, I would love that.
feel free to cut out whatever you want and put it on social.
That's
Yeah,
perfect. Thank you so much.
yeah, yes.
Well,
And
thank you
So
so much.
Thank you.
yes,
you,
we really appreciate you being here. It was probably the best live stream we've done, I
Yeah.
think, and we got a lot of good comments in the chat there. So and actually, we didn't get as many of the side talk in the chat, which tells me people were really enthralled by
Listening.
what you were saying. So
yeah, yeah, it was fun. It's a road most of us don't ever get to go down. I was also
yeah.
going to tell everybody on a slightly different note, we had a victory this week. It's a partial victory. We are, and I wanted to get this in before we called it quits. It's not been an alert yet, but as you know, we sued the city of Winchester recently, well, within the last year, about their gun ban in parking garages. And so Winchester did everything they could to get the judge to throw that out, say, oh no, this is, let's not carry this forward. Anyhow, they were denied. So we're going to be moving forward to the final phase of a lawsuit, and for a trial, if you will, on that issue. And
Mm,
it's going to be very important for us because, that'll be part of us being able to say, look, not all government buildings are sensitive, not parking
mm,
garages, and so forth and so on. So it'll be a very important case. So we got our fingers crossed it'll turn out okay. But Winchester did not get it struck down early. They were denied.
Yeah.
That's
And
a win.
the other thing is when we sued Winchester over the parks, they just said, "Oh, my bad. We'll just take away the park ban." So we didn't get a court decision on that, but we spent thousands, well, tens of thousands of dollars on getting to that point, and then at the last minute they dropped it. So it's good that we're actually going and getting a decision since we have to go to court anyway.
Yeah, well, the judge, our lawyers were ahead of the game on this. They tried that. They took down the signs in the garage saying, well, we don't
Hmm.
have our signs up and nobody's been arrested yet, so we're done. Judge said no. Our team said, yeah, because, yeah, the law is still on the books. You still have that ordinance, which
Hmm.
means that you could bring it right back the minute this case closes. You could put your garage ban back up and we're back to square one, and we don't want to do that. And the
Right.
Okay,
judge
guys,
agreed.
that's such a great news. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's tough fighting in court, but that's all we can do until elections come in, and at some
And
point we got to.
thank you so much for what you're doing. Like I told you, Philip, anything I can do, just let me know. I'll
Sure.
be more than happy to, help in
Yeah.
any way I can.
We got to
Okay.
keep her. We got to get her before she leaves us.
That's
She's in
true.
Virginia now.
Yeah.
We got to keep. We got to use the restroom where we
Sounds
can.
like we got another year at least.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe she'll decide that they like Virginia and stay.
Yeah, four. It'd be
I
nice
actually,
having 4 seasons.
to be honest, I love Virginia. I love Virginia. The only thing that brings us back to Texas is family.
Uh,
But
Mhm.
the state of Virginia, so it
is it
has
his
taken my
family or
heart.
your family? Is it your family or his family? It's in Texas.
Both,
They're both.
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 Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
both.
interesting.
So
Okay.
it's a good reasons to go back there. But
Yeah.
Virginia is such a beautiful state. I'm enjoying it.
Good. Good.
Mhm.
Well,
But
we're glad to have you.
so I hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Good night, and thank you everybody who were watching.
Yes, thanks.
Okay.
All right, let's see. And then, Philip, you had a couple more things you wanted to talk about the vetoes and so forth. We
Yeah.
have an alert out to contact the governor.
Yeah, we do. And so far, we've had about 3,000 emails to the governor. We can do better than that. That sounds like a lot. We can do better. There's way more than 3,000 of you out there. So we
We
need
have
to,
69,000 on our VA alert
yeah.
subscriber list.
So
So
a lot of
3,000
people,
isn't even 1%, people.
yeah. Yeah. And if we do all 69,000, that's pretty impressive. That will
Hmm.
really, um,
It takes
so
literally 30 seconds to do it.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
literally everything's written for you. It's just,
It
you know,
it's
yeah.
and
Just type in your name and address, which that's what the state requires in order to accept the email. It's not something that we did because we just want to make you do it. But you put in your name, address, and email. And if you want to receive text messages, you can put in the phone number and check the box. If you
Yeah.
don't want to receive text messages, just make sure that box is unchecked and it won't make you put in a phone number. So, but please, please send the governor a message because even though he said he was going to veto all of those bills if they wound up back on his desk, it's not over till the fat lady sings, people. And we have to give him the support that he needs to stand up for us.
right. And nothing would be worse than not to do it and then something go wrong and we get one or two of these gun control laws bills turned into law, and you're thinking to yourself, I sure wish I would have been one more voice on that side.
Hmm.
Don't be that person.
do that
Uh,
and ask your family member. Like I all the time ask my husband, hey, can I use your email address? I mean, like, well, one, he's also a very two-way proponent, but at the same time, I'm like, can I just go ahead and fill this out for you? We live in the same house, and I
Hmm.
walk people through it. So
yeah,
it's get people involved in it and just say, hey, look, we need to get this done.
yeah. People in church, people at the shooting
Yeah,
range,
I mean, and
whatever you can.
it's a good segue to get them to become members of the VCDL as well. So.
Right. But that's never our primary goal. Some organizations, you wonder, they have you do a survey and then they start at the end of the survey, they're really
Yeah.
pushing membership. We don't do that stuff.
Mm-mm.
We
Which is
like to have you as a member. We like to have donations, but we don't drive you crazy over it. Our goal is always to win this war.
Right. I mean, if you think we're doing a good enough job that you want to become a member, we greatly appreciate that because it does help to fund the lawsuits and the other things that we do on behalf of all Virginia gun owners. But just like we don't require you be a member to get the VA alert, we
Right.
feel like it's more important for that information to get out there in as many hands as possible than it is for us to say, no, you have to pay us for that service. So,
And and VCDL is cheap. I mean, like every year, I think the most that I have to do is always when I have to switch out bank cards. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
mhm,
$25 a year at the moment. I mean, it's not, and we take outside, you know, outside of the state members, of course, and we need that rally call. I mean, it's even what Gabby was saying earlier. You know, you pull back that slingshot. We need to start rallying together so we can pull back that slingshot and keep moving forward. And this is the time because right now we have all of these atrocious gun control bills back on Youngkin's table, and it's just it's ridiculous. It's becoming a very broken record, and it's time for us to actually start putting ourselves forward to put a stop to this. I mean, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
elections will help with that stop. The
Yeah,
right now the gun controllers are just tone deaf. America didn't vote for this stuff,
I'm trying to.
and they're still running like they had some kind of a mandate. They don't have a mandate. They've got
No.
a one vote majority in both houses. That's it. And they're but I'll say one thing: they've made the most out of that. But unfortunately, the most is tearing down the Constitution is nothing to be proud about. So um, yeah, we want to make sure that Governor Youngkin feels supported in what he's doing. He's it's so everything's really riding on him right now.
yeah,
Hopefully, elections will help with it.
it's really easy to make irate phone calls or send irate emails and say, I'm mad at you for doing this. But when
Mm-mm.
people do the right thing, do what they're supposed to do, it
I,
bolsters them and empowers them if they get a flood of phone calls and letters and emails that say, hey, I appreciate you having
yeah,
my back. I appreciate
absolutely.
you doing the right thing. We're with you, we're behind you, and I appreciate everything that you're doing for us.
Yeah, who likes to constantly be criticized with negative this, negative that? That's nobody likes that. No matter what you're doing, if everybody is unappreciative of you and or they take advantage of you, and when they do talk to you, it's always about the negative things. No, people,
Hmm.
that's not our nature. Human
Right.
beings like to know if they're doing a good job. They love the praise. That's built
Hmm.
into us.
And
And
that's giving credit where it's due. I mean,
yes,
that's being fair. That's holding them to accountability as well as being fair with what they've done well, and they should be praised for that.
yeah,
So
accountability is a two-way thing. I mean, if they did
exactly,
something positive, they should be held accountable for that and given credit for it.
exactly.
Absolutely. All right. Is there anything else we need to cover before we say goodnight?
I don't think
Um,
so.
We had a
Our
very
next
good
meeting is
one.
going to be down in Yorktown. That will be coming up
mhm.
on the 20th. So if
Yep.
any of you are around that area, if you're down in the Tidewater area, come to the in-person meeting we're having in Yorktown.
Yep. 11
Yep.
days from now. So that will be coming out in a VA alert. It was in the last one, I believe, right?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
it'll come out again.
So, thanks everybody for joining us. We really appreciate you spending your Sunday evening with us. And please do all the social media things, click the buttons, ring the bells, hit the share thing, and let all your friends know. I think this was a fabulous chat with Gabby. And I hope that you share it with your friends so that the message can get out there. So thank you all again, and we will see you in the next one.